space for note taking. It's a stunning version of the Bible. So the first caller to donate $100 or more during this Thursday 3 p.m. hour will receive that copy of the Living Word Catholic Women's Bible from Ave Maria Press, compliments of of Messenger Traditional Catholic Books and Gifts in Hayes. And you can find Messenger at traditionalcatholicstore.com or go visit them in person in downtown Hayes. They have a gorgeous store there, and we are so appreciative of Jerome and Angela Schmeidler and their family for all of the support that they give Divine Mercy Radio. For all the support they give to the Catholic community of Hayes. They are a true gem in downtown Hayes and a huge blessing to all of us in this Catholic community. So thank you so much, Jerome and Angela and your family from Messenger Traditional Catholic Books and Gifts in Hayes for making that beautiful donation of this book for our first $100 donor. To get this 3 p.m. hour started, I also want to share our second to last trivia question of the day. So this trivia question, please, if you're listening and you want to give us a call, the question is, which of these saints was the most recent? So who got canonized most recently? Is it A, St. Pope John Paul II, B, St. Faustina, C, St. Stephen, the first martyr, or D, St. Maximilian Kolbe? So again, which of these saints was the most recent? Is it A, St. Pope John Paul II, B, St. Faustina, excuse me, C, St. Stephen, the first martyr, or D, St. Maximilian Kolbe? If you know the answer to that question, you can give us a call at 785-621-4110. Sorry, I had to get rid of the tickle in my throat. Again, that number is 621-4110. Give us a call if you know the answer to that trivia question. You can also utilize that phone number to text us a question for any of our live on-air guests. Give us a text or send us a text at 785-621-4110. If you have anything you'd like to ask any of our guests, they will shoot that message in here to the studio, and I'll be able to ask our guests that question on the air. So we are getting started with the final hour of this 2026 Spring Carathon. Behold, I make all things new. We are going to be speaking this hour with Mary Schroeder, and she's going to be talking about motherhood, through motherhood toward God. Mary is married to Gordon Schroeder. They have 9 children from ages 20 down to 4. They are Rebecca, Samuel, Jacob, Paul, Miriam, Zipporah, Peter, Benjamin, and Joseph. Gordon is a web designer who works from home. He writes code for a legal website. Excuse me. Mary stays home with the children, and she homeschools the elementary age children through an online virtual school while keeping the youngest alive, which is a feat in and of itself. Good job, Mary. She's batting 1,000, and we're so grateful. The high schoolers attend TMP Marion, and currently Jacob, and that includes currently Jacob and Paul. Samuel is studying physics and mathematics at Fort Hays State University, and the oldest, Rebecca, is pursuing theology and secondary education at Benedictine College in Atchison. You have a beautiful family, and they have been such a huge blessing to so many. I see Samuel in the hall like almost every day at Fort Hays. It's such a joy to see him. And we just saw Rebecca last night because she was the sponsor for her cousin Lily at confirmation. And so it was such a blessing to see her back, even just for a couple of, hours from Atchison. So thank you so much for being with us. I have been friends with Mary for probably 20 something years, I think. So yes. And so I have to admit that I was very selfishly happy that Mary was on my list of people to interview today. So Mary, talk to us a little bit about the mystery of motherhood. I know some people may not consider it a mystery, but there's a lot of mysteries in motherhood. So share with us a little bit of your insight.
Well, I felt like to start this, I had to start with going back to the documents, of course, because it's the scholarly thing to do. So yes. I found this one by on the Dignity and Vocation of Women by St. Pope John Paul II. Don't make me say it in Latin, but anyway, it's great because he talks about in paragraph 18, he begins with the basic truth of how man is created. It's the only creature willed for himself and able to decide for himself, but he also cannot find himself except through a sincere gift of himself. And so in the document, it says, the truth about the person also opens up the path to a full understanding of women's motherhood. Motherhood is the fruit of marriage, union of man and woman, of that biblical knowledge which corresponds to the union of the two in one flesh. This brings about on the woman's part a special gift of self. I think that's really pretty, and it comes up over the next few paragraphs. But just as a teaser, that appears to be, in my own humble opinion, the theological fulfillment of motherhood would be that it gives us a special way to give ourselves. Further in this, though, it says, motherhood implies that a beginning, a special openness to the new person that is precisely the woman's part. In this openness in conceiving and giving birth to a child, the woman discovers herself through the sincere gift of self. Further, it says, scientific analysis fully confirms that the very physical constitution of women is naturally disposed to motherhood, conception, pregnancy, and giving birth, which is a consequence of the marriage union with the man. And further, motherhood as a human fact and phenomena is fully explained on the basis of the truth about the person. It's just so beautiful the way he talks about the different aspects, how we're physically created this way and we're spiritually created and we're just all toward the new gift that we're able to bring forth.
Yes, absolutely. So when we look at motherhood again, we talk about that mystery, and I mean, God's hands are all over this vocation, all over this role. Let's just look at Mary, for example, our Blessed Mother, Mary, not you specifically, but our Blessed Mother. What is it about Our Lady who is, she's the ultimate mother. So what is it that makes her so special in this role?
Whoa. Allison, you're running me up here. That was a later question. I just want to say.
Well, I'm jumping ahead. I know we'll backtrack and we'll make our circular way
honestly,
around.
I think the most beautiful thing about Mary is just that she said yes. And that the beautiful part of that is that's what sainthood is for all of us, is God gives us our question and we're able to say yes, as Mary said yes.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
And it's a yes that we have to say every single day.
And it's a yes that brings forth new life.
Yeah. And I mean, this is when we look at the Blessed Mother, her yes is our example. And I know this isn't exactly what we had maybe planned to talk about, but how do you exemplify that yes for, well, not just your daughters, but your children in general? How do you show them that yes every single day?
Oh my goodness. That's also I was going to talk. This is just great. You just dive right in.
I do. We've been friends for a long time. We can have this conversation and we'll fill the whole hour.
So it's really, I've noticed lately that like my older children are watching when I parent my younger children, and my younger children are, how do you say in a nice way that younger children are repetitive and often demanding. I have told my youngest so many times I do not negotiate with terrorists. He doesn't know what that means, but everyone else hears it and laughs because it's true. He's so like, I believe this, and I want this right now. And I'm like, no, you don't need that right now. But they're watching as I repeatedly am like, yes, Joseph, let me get that for you. Yes, Joseph, let me do that. Let me get up and find this for you. Let me make you dinner. Let me choose to do this for you. Let me, in all these ways, they're seeing the sacrifice that I'm making each moment to them. And so then they're able to make that later. And I think that's a beautiful testament to like what a mother does. You see a mother working and you realize that's what, not only am I loving and they're seeing me love others, but they're seeing what it means to love others.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. What do you find are the fundamental aspects of motherhood? If you boil it down to the basics, what is that about?
Okay. I have this book. It's called Catholic Tales for Boys and Girls. It's by Carol Houselander.
Yeah, go ahead and show it. Yeah.
It's the best. This book is fantastic. It's a great read aloud for elementary age kids, but it's good for adults too. Okay. So there's this chapter on here called Bird on a Wing. And it's about a little boy, and he is from England, and he feels he's an orphan, and he feels called to be a priest, but he's really poor. He has to keep begging for his means to live. And he's like, how can I go study to be a priest when I don't have any money? And we're persecuted in England at this time. So he decides he's gonna stow away on the ship and go to France, where he can learn to be he can study to be a priest. So he climbs on this ship. He sees this one really big ship, and it ends up being a pirate ship. But he doesn't know until he's out in the water. And so he's like, well, what do I do now? I'm on the ship. So he's praying to Our Lady to help him, well, they let him live, right? And so they put him to work, and it's really hard work, and pirates aren't the best of men. And so they're kind of rough and tumble and whatever. And it's not so great. But then
the ship does what pirate ships do, and they attack another ship and they bring in the booty, and the captain gets wounded and all these people, and it's really terrible. But the little boy, amongst the booty is a statue of Our Lady. And the captain likes it. And so he's like, I'm going to take it home to my little girl in France. And so he puts it in his cabin. And the little boy loves this statue. And he'll go in and pray to it every time he sees it. And then it's like Mary is working through the statue and through the little boy then. So she tells him what to do. She's like, bind their wounds. And he goes and gets some bandages and he starts trying to bind their wounds, and she like helps him. It's like he sees a vision of other hands doing it. And the head pirate guy is like, the captain, he's like, wow, I expect you to be not so good at this, and so he binds their wounds. And then another one is sad, and she says, console him. And he goes over and he doesn't know quite what he's saying, but he can see the man like physically being consoled. And then he goes to help the cook, and he makes this delicious dinner, and he doesn't even know how to, he's cleaned a few potatoes, but he makes this delicious dinner and dessert. And like, so, and then they start like, he starts cleaning the ship. She's inspiring him, like, clean well. And the ship just looks beautiful and immaculate. And then he starts like, all of a sudden clothes are mended and pillows are fluffed. And all these pirates suddenly are like, oh, wow, it's so comfortable. It's so nice. We forgot what it's like to live in a dignified manner. And they decide to stop being pirates. They start flying a flag with like a lily on it and, a Marian flag. And by accident, just happened to show up. And they land in France and they leave port the next time as an honest men. And they are no longer pirates. And it's because of this mothering that happened through Our Lady, through this little boy, because it's like, being a mother reminds us, it reminds the world that there is comfort, there is good, there is, and not that, I don't mean to say that it's wrong, like there are truths about the world that you have to deal with, but being a mother brings a little bit of comfort, a little bit of peace, a little bit of joy, a little bit of stability when the waves of the sea are tossing you about and it's all crazy.
And our kids, all of us who are moms know that our kids are in the midst of that rough and tumble sea. And just in your experience, raising all of your beautiful children and getting many of them through that tumultuous, preteen, teenagerhood time in their lives, what lessons have you learned? What have you been able to take from, stories like that, or from just the Blessed Mother's example, or just, your faith life to help you navigate that?
Well, I think part of the secret is really just listening. How and not just like, oh yeah, you're talking, that's nice, but really trying to hear what they're saying, trying to encourage them, trying to validate their feelings. I don't want to say like, oh, you're right to feel that way, but just, oh, so that made you feel this way, to accept what they're sharing with you, to just really be open to receiving it. Like my kids, I feel like, could tell me anything and I would receive it. Now I might have to work at keeping my face, from responding so quickly, but there's a few deep breaths now and again. But I want to be that place where they can come and share their heart, because that's the secret, I think, to being human, is being able to share your heart with other people, because we're made for communion. And I think sometimes when our kids get lost in that storm, they kind of feel like they're all alone, and they feel like there's nobody that knows what they're going through or what it feels like or the struggles they're having. And it's like, but I want to be a safe harbor for them to come home and say, Mom, this is what happened, or Mom, this is where I'm at, or and that sounds glorious. Oftentimes it's much, much tamer. It's like, yes, well, how was your class today? Oh, that was hard for you. Oh, you got more homework. Well, that's rough. It doesn't seem always like they're fighting these battles, but really, in a sense, they are.
Yeah. Yeah. I do want to pause for just a second and give an update for some things. I know this will be reiterating some of what Michael was mentioning in his time in here briefly before Mary's interview. But we do have just a little over $3,000 left in matching funds during this spring carathon. Remember, our goal is $125,000 raised to continue the mission of Divine Mercy Radio. But we did start out with $30,150 in matching funds available starting Tuesday when we launched this year's spring carathon, and now we have just a little bit under or a little bit over $3,000 left. We do want to thank our first caller and our first donor, Nancy Niermeyer, who won the Bible. Also, congratulations to Nancy. And we also want to congratulate Cindy Lang, who is our trivia winner. The trivia question for the top of the hour was, which of these saints was the most recent? Saint Pope John Paul II, Saint Faustina, Saint Stephen the First Martyr, or Saint Maximilian Kolbe? And Cindy knew that the answer to that was Saint Pope John Paul II. So we're very excited that Cindy, knew the answer to that question, called in. And Cindy, we will make sure to get your name name in the drawing for that $50 gift certificate, rather at the end of this hour. I also want to thank Larry and Mary Schlick, who donated $250, which doubles to $500. So Larry and Mary, thank you so much for the very generous gift that you gave to help us continue our mission here at Divine Mercy Radio. If you want to follow their lead, please give us a call at 785-621-4110. Again, the number is 785-621-4110, or you can donate online at dvmercy.com. And while you're online, go ahead and check out that little thermometer. Michael keeps that one updated here every time we get a new batch of donors. He updates the amount that we've raised. So keep an eye on that, because we would very much love to see that little thermometer rise all the way to the top. Okay, so we're going to get back into our conversation with Mary Schroeder, in talking about motherhood and how we move more closely to God through our vocation of motherhood. So, Mary, how has motherhood? I mean, you've been a mom now for 20 years, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Rebecca's 20, or
She'll be 21
she'll be
this summer.
21.
Yeah.
So, how has motherhood changed your relationship with God?
I would say it's pushed me out of my comfort zone. So it's caused me to have to cry out to him. You know, before I had kids, I thought I was this pretty decent person. You know, no, I'm like, oh, I'm not really selfish. I like to help people. I'm a good kid, you know. And then I had a baby, and having children just blows your world. You know, it's one thing to want to help people when you feel like it, and it's another thing to help your kids when you don't feel like it.
Yeah.
And that is kind of motherhood in a nutshell, is a lot of that being trial through fire, you know, and you
Yes.
have to give when you don't want to give. And that became a whole new element of learning. So that I would say that kind of broke me open in a really good way, you know, because otherwise we just kind of stay in our, if we never push ourselves, if we never like take on a penance, or we never try to do another prayer, or we never try to stretch ourselves, we never grow, you know, and then we just kind of close in. And I think motherhood has been really good for me to kind of soften my soul to, well, and as the Pope says, you know, it's the fulfillment, not just biological mothers, but if we weren't biological mothers, women are all called to be spiritual mothers, you know, like we just have this within us as we're created. This is the fulfillment of our role as we grow and progress, you know. This is the next step. It just feels so it's a lofty calling, but it's so fulfilling, you know.
And it's very, I mean, humbling.
Oh
Yeah.
yes.
I mean, the daily humbling, right, that comes with motherhood, which is a gift. It's hard. It's a hard gift to accept in the moment a lot of times, but still, it's a gift nonetheless.
Yeah. So much of it has to do with the children. I'm finally nine kids in, realizing it. You know, you can parent them one way, and their personality is just, you know, know the best you can do. But I remember there were times, especially with my youngest, where he would sit. I never had to leave with my perfect child, Rebecca, as a baby. She was such a perfect baby. You know what I mean? And she was never caused any trouble. And now the last one, it was just, I don't know if I'm a worse parent or if I'm a better parent, but he's a lot more work. And I would have a harder time getting him to sit still or be still. And maybe it's because they're little boys too. Like my youngest three, now I go out to eat or whatever, and they're just causing some trouble. And it's kind of like, well, if that bothers you, we can leave. But if it doesn't, like, that's the best I can do. Like, I cannot make him sit still, and I cannot make him be quiet right now. I just can't. Like, I'm sorry.
And just when you think you have motherhood figured out, somebody does something new, and you're like, oh, well, that's new. That is not something I experienced with any of your previous brothers and sisters.
Yes.
Yeah. So what, I mean, it's a gift. Absolutely. Did you notice this shift in your relationship with God? I don't know, maybe is it more of a receptivity, or is it, you know, how would you define that change? And how did that, like, did you notice a shift right away, or did that just grow over time? I know you kind of mentioned that you sort of, like, 9 kids in, you sort of figured some things out. And
yeah, I think it's shifted slowly. Well, like I said, the minute I became a mother, really, you know, you bring the baby home from the hospital, it's like the whole new world. You know, that's a huge shift. But then, like, our growth with God isn't, we're not standing still. You know, it's constantly moving. And so as we add children into the mix, it kind of just makes it a different flavor, I guess. But I do remember a gradual shift. So I remember being pregnant with Samuel, and Rebecca was still nursing, and I was like, one morning, I'm like trying to do 6 things at once. I'm nursing Rebecca. I've got this big old pregnant belly, and I'm eating toast, and I'm trying to pray the liturgy of the hours. And I was just like, she's like fussing around and wiggling, and I get jelly like on my liturgy hours book. And I was just like, I was so mad. And then I realized, I was like, Mary, you were trying to do too much in that little bit of time before you go to work. I was like, okay, this is something needs to give. And I realized that mothering is really full-time, even above, like I wanted to pray the liturgy of the hours. Sometimes you have to live the prayer rather than sit down and say the words. It's
Yeah.
really, and that's a truth I know I've heard before, but it's one you kind of have to finally come to grips with when you're like, I just can't keep my eyes open to look at the book, or I can't find the time. Like I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
You never know that until you're a parent. And yeah, people who are single think they have it's so busy. And it's like, I can't even have the light on after this amount of time because that kid will wake up and this will happen. And it's just like,
well, even I think taking young children to mass, where I know we've talked about this. I know several of our friends have talked about this. Like, you want to go to mass and you want to pay attention, but because little people are squirmy and maybe fussy and whatever, and so you feel like I didn't feel like I really went to mass, and so it is about that living out of that vocation, and just you have to live that prayer instead of being maybe fully immersed and concentrating on that prayer in that moment.
So that brings me back to another point I was going to bring up somewhere, but something I've just noticed God has been kind of highlighting for me lately has been a motherhood. Like if you were going to say, oh, that's motherhood, like you go to mass. The last couple of times I've gone, I've looked around and seen the little babies, which are so sweet. And then I see these mothers and you just like, they're all swaying and they're rubbing a child's back and they're whispering in their ear, something to the kid to get them to behave. And it's just so sweet. My heart just overflows every time. I love the back rub. I just watch these moms just rubbing backs, and fixing the hair, tying the shoe. It's so beautiful.
It is, and the swaying, like
oh yes,
and it's so funny because if you sit far enough back at church, you'll see moms who maybe haven't had a baby in their kids are in middle school or high school or whatever, and all of a sudden they just they're not holding the baby, but they're just swaying back and forth because somebody in front of them with a baby is, and it's almost like that innate, when someone yawns and then you yawn. Similarly, all of us just start swaying back and forth. So yeah, I think that just gets ingrained in us. I want to go back to something you said. You talked about spiritual motherhood, and there are many women who are not necessarily called to be biological moms, but have that spiritual motherhood aspect of their life. Can you expand upon that just a little bit?
Oh my goodness. Like as we have the IHM sisters here now, which are such a blessing. I think just experiencing them, like, cause they're just so beautiful. I mean, I go in for parent teacher conferences to one of the sisters. I never can get their names.
Sister Mary Agnes or Sister Mary Monica.
I think it's Mary Monica.
Yeah.
And we'll start talking about my son. And then the next thing you know, we're just talking and it's just beautiful. It's like going in to visit with your mom and I'm just like sharing my heart and whatever. And she's just coming back and telling me what website, one time I went in and I was telling her that my son Samuel was asking me the questions about the Eucharist, these like really specific type of theological, the very, very heady questions. And I was like, I can't answer this, son. I'm sorry. You're going to have to ask someone else. And I was telling her this was back when he was in high school. And she was like, oh, there's this website and it's about St. Thomas Aquinas and it's got these videos and, and they're good for you too. And we were just going off and it was just so reassuring because it was just so friendly and welcoming and just mothering, and I remember also one of the sisters came, I think this was before we had sisters here, or maybe it was some of the sisters, but they gave one of the parish missions at Immaculate Heart of Mary. And I remember her saying something about how she requested that every man that interacted with her would treat her with respect in a sense, but she said it better than that, if that makes sense. But it was just so beautiful. It was like she invited them to be in their manhood and you could just see it so beautifully because I just love that embracing that as women, we can't do things and men, their role is to be chivalrous and to be protective and to be that way. And so in a sense, the way she lived was like calling them to their vocation as well. And even Father Andy said it in the mass recently for Catholic Schools Week.
Oh yeah.
About how when you're around a sister, you just want to behave the best you can. they just make you want to,
they bring out the best.
Yeah. And so in a sense, it's like they're mothering all of us. They're just encouraging us and loving us and inviting us to step up to what we're called to be.
Yeah. And I think I've heard, I don't know if it's Father Fred or who, I know maybe he said it, where people ask him about, did you ever want to become a dad? And he's like, I've got so many kids. I don't know. I think I remember him saying that to us in college when he was down at the campus center, but he's like, at some point maybe, but now I have more kids than I know what to do with, and he's able to shepherd them all. And kind of like that with that spiritual motherhood where, they're maybe called to a vocation in the religious life, but now they've got, I mean, you look at Sister Mary Agnes and Sister Mary Monica, and even,
Mhm.
Sister Rosemary and Sister John Marie down at Holy Family, where they have all of these kids that they are, having that motherly affection toward and motherly care for. They want the best for those kids for as little amount of time as they get with them in the day, throughout the whole year. They definitely they have that motherly instinct, and that comes out in their approach to their teaching, which is beautiful.
And that's often something I try and think about anytime we have guests at my house, especially kids. I always think of like, what would Our Lady do if we came to visit at her house? I know Sister Miriam James Heitland often prays like she goes back to the Holy Family in her prayers, you know, and so she visits their house. And I always think, well, what if this were Our Lady's house? How would I greet these people? How would I welcome them?
Yeah.
And of course my husband's like, okay, well, maybe your house doesn't have to be spotless like Mary's was, but he's always like, not so much on the cleaning.
I do think about Mary, the Blessed Mother, and I think about what a struggle. I mean, she probably knew from a very early age, at least her parents, Anne and Joachim, they knew she was different, right? And I'm sure at some point in her growing up, whether that was about what we would consider middle school age or whatever, she knew there was something different about her. And I just have to wonder, like, what was that like for her as she grew into her motherhood, and to take on such a huge responsibility and give God her yes, how that impacted her life. And I think too, how did she deal with some of the stuff? Because I'm sure back then, people probably saw her coming and was like, oh, well, that's Mary with her perfect personality and her perfect kid. And I wonder
if it was off-putting because she was so holy.
Yeah, and how she
annoying
dealt with
holiness.
that. Annoying holiness. But how she dealt with that, and just knowing that she probably at some point was the object of ridicule. And I think there's so many times as mothers we feel put under the microscope. And I think she probably had that to such a high degree that we can't even fathom. And so I look at even just in looking at our prayer life, I'm sure thinking about the Blessed Mother and her prayer life leading up to Jesus's birth, probably looked one way, and maybe she too felt like, oh, now I've got a baby who needs, all these different things. And so feeling a little bit stretched thin, and maybe that changed a bit. How has your prayer life changed since having kids?
Well, physically it's changed. I mean, when I was in college, I went to a holy hour every day. I went to daily mass every day because I could. And when you're in college, you have copious amounts of free time. And so I put those things first. And that like really was good for that part in my life. And then I moved out here to the desert of Hayes. It's not so bad, but from charismatic Franciscan University to Salina, Kansas, it's a little different, a little bit of different atmosphere. And so it just was a big shift for me, just location and whatever. And then we settled down, got married, and started having kids so quickly that I would often pray the Liturgy of the Hours. Like that was my thing. And that's actually how I met my husband. Were you in that group that used to pray?
Yeah.
You remember?
Yeah,
It's the one summer we would pray. And so we did that group. And then the next summer, everybody vanished except me. And so then that's how I met Gordy. It was just he and I praying every night. So that was kind of neat. After we got married, we would pray night prayer, usually, sometimes morning prayer. But then it's like has slowly tapered off because I just can't seem to find that sort of a structured time, for a large part of my motherhood. I just had to do other things, and nursing the baby, like I said, became my prayer, and it became, a Bible verse here or there, or a little book now and then, but it just looks so different. And yeah, I think it's just kind of how motherhood, the ebb and the flow goes. And now I've kind of been able to get back to a more stability looking prayer, as the baby has gotten older. I guess I was pregnant between baby 7 and 8 or 8 and 9. I don't remember which one, but I really felt like God was calling me to a deeper prayer life. And it was like, I need a more consistent, because I was kind of just letting it be whenever I could fit it. And it wasn't fitting well. And so I started getting up early to pray. And we moved into our house that we live in now near Paradise. There's a closet with a window that I turned into my prayer room, and it's so amazing. Like God thought of me, and Gordy calls it my office, which is just so fun.
I love it.
But it is so great. And so I actually have my own little room I can go to in the morning. So I get up extra early and I take my coffee and I go in there and I shut the door and I turn on my light and light my candle, and I just have that time with God and I. And even when I was pregnant and half that time I was spent sleeping on the floor, but it was like, I think of Therese, who says that sometimes for the deepest surgeries, the patient needs to be asleep. So that's what I just keep in mind.
Oh, that's
I was
beautiful.
trying to be faithful to my prayer time, even though it felt like I was getting nowhere. And nowadays, sometimes even I'm sitting there and I feel like I'm getting nowhere. But the beauty of prayer is that God's calling us. And even though we're trying, he's doing all the work, you know?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Okay, well, we do want to thank the anonymous donor who just called in a few minutes ago with their donation of $500. So I don't know who you are. God knows who you are, but we thank you so much for that generous offering of $500 to help further our mission of Divine Mercy Radio. That money doubles to $1,000, and I will wait because I think we're getting very close to utilizing all of those matching funds. So I'm sure one of the guys will send me a quick update here in just a bit to tell us how many of those matching funds we still have available. But as we are at the bottom of the hour, I do want to share our next trivia question. So the trivia question for this 3:30 half hour is, which of David's sons took over the kingdom after he died? Was it A, Saul, B, Absalom, C, Japheth, or D, Solomon? Which of David's sons took over the kingdom after he died? Was it Saul, Absalom, Japheth, or Solomon? If you know the answer to that trivia question, please give us a call at 785-621-4110. Again, the number is 785-621-4110. While you're calling in, please prayerfully consider making a donation to support the mission of Divine Mercy Radio. Remember that our Carathon theme is Behold, I Make All Things New, and your donations are absolutely allowing us to do that, to make new opportunities. We are getting ready to move into a new building, and so all of these donations will help us keep all of the equipment running, all of these stations that we have under us on the air. And we are just very generous, or very, very thankful for your generosity in any amount that you're willing to give us to help support this mission. So again, if you want to give us a call at 785-621-4110 and make your donation there, or you can go online and go to dvmercy.com. Again, it's dvmercy.com, and you can make an online donation there. We did get a trivia winner, and I'm thinking, if this is the correct guy, that this might be one of my godsons, but the trivia winner is Anthony Brown. He knew that the answer to our trivia question, which of David's sons took over the kingdom after he died, he knew the answer was Solomon. Good job, Anthony. I'm proud of you, kid. I think that's my godson. I don't know of many other Anthony Browns in the area, so I'm pretty sure that's the right one, and I'm proud of him. But Anthony will get your name in to the drawing for the gift certificate from Messenger Traditional Catholic Books and Gifts at the end of the hour. So congratulations to you on that. All right, well, we're going to continue this conversation with Mary Schroeder, and we were talking about prayer life. I also wanted to ask you, because there is such a sacrificial aspect of motherhood, and how do you unite those little annoyances, the challenges, the late nights, the early mornings, all of, and literally physical pain, because there's so much of that when you're pregnant and, out recovering from birth and all of those things. How do you unite that with Christ?
Sorry, the first thing that comes to mind is not well. Not well.
Totally honest here.
But I do try. But I think you're just nailing it. That's the that's something that recently has kind of hit me harder lately. Just that aspect of God always with us, God always caring for us, God always near us, and how conversation is our prayer. And I know everyone says that, oh, I can just talk to God. But in a sense, it's beyond talking. It's almost like we exist with God more so. It's kind of what it feels like to me. And so when I'm in the kitchen a lot cooking, and it's boring, and it's like, okay, I'm resigning myself to wash the dishes again, or cook this meal again, or spend hours on this, just that sense that just inviting God to be here with me in this and to allow this dullness, this seeming emptiness, to just fill that if he'd like. It's like we create a space for him. It makes me think of the widow in the Bible. I don't remember where, but there was some widow that would make a room for the prophet when he would come to visit.
Oh yeah.
And it's like we make this space for God, and we put the light on and say, anytime you're around, come on by. And it's like, you don't know that he's going to show up, and God can show up, and it can be this great prayer moment. And sometimes God doesn't show up, and then you just offer that time, and you say, well, I'm doing it the best I can, and I trust that this is that you're taking this. And yeah, like I said, with the physical pain especially, I've often thought about that because I'm not very good at suffering. And the minute the pain starts, you just turn into this monster, and you're just like, ah. Afterwards, you're like, I'm so sorry, Mom had a headache. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But it's just, I feel like God kind of just helps us a little bit at a time. And it's been helpful for me to have a specific prayer intention in mind sometimes. So I'll text one of my friends and be like, I've got a headache. What do you need prayer for? Like, this is for my friend Monica, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it really can help me to focus sometimes, or to pray for a specific kid or a specific intention or something. Sometimes that can be helpful. But just to remember, like, that all of our moment, in a sense, becomes a prayer as we're living and moving with God in this sphere, whatever it is.
Yeah. What about the saints? How have the saints come to your aid in your motherhood? Or are there particular saints that you've kind of gravitated towards as you've become a mom and lived out this vocation of motherhood?
Well, Saint Therese of Lisieux, of course, has kind of claimed me a little bit, which was sweet. So I went in the Adoration Chapel once, and there was a book by her about Lent, and I saw it sitting up there, for anyone to take. And I was kind of like, oh, I don't need that. I've got this other book. And so I sat down. About halfway through the hour I was in there, I was like, well, maybe I'll just look at it a little. And I pulled over and I started looking at it, and it was just like speaking right to my heart. And I was like, thanks, Therese. You're the best. Like, this is really good. But so I've been just kind of, I was reading through some of her different works and things, and a lot. Like, I remember one time I sat down in my prayer closet and I was having a particularly bad day, and I just look over at my shelf and I pulled up a book that I'd already read before, and I just opened it up, and it was a book. It was one about her or something, and there was this line from her in it, and it just was like exactly what I needed to hear. And I was like, oh, she's the sweetest. And then lately she's been introducing me to her mother, Saint Zélie,
yes,
right? And
yeah.
I stumbled upon their letters between Saint Zélie and Louis. Yeah, and that's fun. So it's been really neat to see the what do I want to say, the more relatable aspects of them in their letters. They love each
Yeah.
other so much, but at the same time, it's like, don't buy the silk for me anymore there, because you spend too much money.
Well, and I know in some of her writings, where she also is talking about just how many times she had to get one kid off the stairs, and I just want her to sit still, and all of these things. And I think, oh my gosh, that's so relatable. How often we do the same things over and over.
Oh yes.
So Saint Therese, Saint Zélie, anybody else?
Well, I mean, John Paul II, just because. Who doesn't love St. John Paul II?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't know specifically of motherhoods. Do you know motherhood saints?
Like a few of them. I'm trying to think. Well, Saint Monica, she's a huge one.
Forgive me. Yes, Saint Monica.
Not because of I'm bringing my children back to the faith or anything, because but just her persistence.
Yes.
And I just think, oh my gosh, there are times where I'm just like, okay, God, I've prayed about X, Y, or Z for how many weeks now,
and she's like,
was
44 years, or whatever it was.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you think that's a lot? That's nothing.
A drop in the bucket.
A drop in the bucket, and it's like, okay, humility. It comes in spades.
Oh, and Saint Augustine must have been such a handful.
Yes. And I just think about, the challenges, and just thinking like, oh my goodness, I'm never gonna see the fruit of this.
Yeah.
And yet here she's the mother of one of the most amazing saints, in our church's history. And so I just, those consolations, that it brings to your heart. But so she's a big one. Saint Anthony is my best friend forever. In our house, we lose a lot of things. And so we, Saint Anthony and I talk on a daily basis. And so he, I constantly am asking for intercession. Oh, this kid lost his homework, or this child lost X, Y, or Z, whatever.
Or their will to get their homework done on time.
Yeah, exactly. We talk about saints for students. So I go to Saint Joseph of Cupertino. Oh my goodness.
Buddy.
Yeah. And then I also, this is going to sound so crazy, but I look at some of those saints that had the gift of bilocation.
Mm.
And I think I've told like a couple of the, staff members at St. Joseph this, and there's some other people that I've told about this. I think in our Catholic wellness group, there are times when I'm just like, God, this would be such a beautiful gift. Because I would use it wisely. I understand the space-time continuum and all of those things. Just I understand that, but I would use it wisely. I could be at home doing the cleaning, getting the laundry done, all the things. And then I could be doing whatever I need to do with at work or going to this event or that event. And so I just think, God and I have had that conversation at adoration. Well, I say God and I have talked. I don't know. I'm sure he's listening and just rolling his eyes. But, I've spent a good portion of adoration talking about that, saying, just please give me that gift of being able to manage all the things and be wherever I'm most needed at whenever I'm most needed there. So, yeah.
Wasn't St. Anthony the one that had the child too? Like they peeked in and he was like holding the baby.
Baby Jesus.
Yeah, baby Jesus. Like I
Yeah.
think of that sometimes, just like when I'm with my kids, like, could you hold him for a minute? Like, could you just keep him calm for a little bit? Rest with them for a little bit.
Right.
So they'll settle.
So we've got, this huge treasure trove of saints, to support us. And I'm constantly, learning about somebody new. And I'm just thinking, oh, that's a good prayer for that one. Or, my kid's got this issue or that issue. And I'm just like, oh, okay, yes, now I have a saint for that, and
Carlo Acutis, the recent one,
yes.
he speaks to me because he's so young. And I just think like, could you have your mother pray for me too? Like I'm the age of your mother. You know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah.
could you just reach me on that level? If you were my son, could you pray for
Right.
me as my son? It's almost like the sun saint to me.
Yes.
It's like the first time when I started having a priest that was my age, or a priest now that's younger than me. Like that's a
Mhm.
new level. And now it's like the beauty of it though is that it's the priest is the father, the priest is the son. It's
Yes.
still beautiful.
Yeah. And in fact, I think about St. Carlos Acutis, and I think about his mom, and when we were going through the whole canonization and she was all over on media and being interviewed. And I just think, oh my goodness, I cannot even imagine. That is probably an indescribable feeling to know that your child is being recognized by the church in such a capacity. That has to be just, there's no words for it. So yeah, tons of people, tons of individuals to pray for us. If you would think back to, as you think back upon your journey of motherhood, 20 years you're into this now, and you're a mother till you die. You're always going to worry about your kids. My mom's like, I'm 73 and I still worry about my kids because they're fully grown and all this. What would you say to a mom who is newly on this journey? First child, maybe she's in the first year of this journey into motherhood. Looking back on your journey, what would you say to her?
Well, I think the thing that I don't know about every mother. Every mother needs something different. But if I were to go back and look at myself, I would tell myself that motherhood is a hidden vocation, but God is there and seeing it. Because, in a sense, like especially when you're a mother of young children, you go to play groups and you go, take them out to go for a walk, go to the park, whatever. But a lot of it is spent at home behind your closed door. A lot of it is spent with no one seeing what you're putting up with. And it's so easy to feel like nobody cares because it's like, I have 3 kids, I have 6 kids, whatever, it's like even my 9 kids, like, and it's not very many kids. I feel like it's not, I'm not making an impact on the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All I'm doing is keeping these 9 alive, like whatever. But I would look back at myself now and be like, that's actually a huge deal. Like to these kids, I'm the world. Like they would tell you I'm irreplaceable. And I know that's not necessarily true. Like if need be, so they could get another mother figure. But that's the beautiful part about Communio. But just that, even though it's hidden, it's like God sees you in each moment, and just to savor that moment. And in a sense, it's almost like a glimpse of God, like the face of God sometimes in caring for these children, and when they're joyful and when they're sad and when you're able to comfort them, like how beautiful that is.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this too, because flipping it to the other side, what were some things about your own mom that inspired you in the way you mother your children? Was there anything that she did or an approach that she took and you're just like, I want to emulate that?
Sounds like you have a story.
No, I was like, oh, Holy Spirit, what else can we talk about? Because I love this conversation.
No, this is beautiful. I think something about my mom was that she was always gentle and she was always kind.
Yeah.
There was never a harshness. There was never you got in trouble, you're going to be punished. It was always approached with with my dignity as a person was always respected, and it was always compassion and empathy.
Mhm.
And I like to think I didn't turn out too bad, so she must have done okay.
She did. Good job, Madonna. Great job.
But I also know that, like, as the mother, in a sense, my husband and I have had this conversation, how the father tends to be more of the disciplinarian and the mother tends to be more of the consoler. And you kind of need both in a family. And not saying that mom can't discipline and dad can't console, but at the same time, it kind of tends to fall that way. And so, but there is a beauty, I think, in the mother to be the one that consoles, to be the one that's there after the child has the trouble and the struggle, and they made the mistake, to be the one that understands,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and pause for just a second. We want to thank Jackie Sklout for donating $100. Jackie, thank you so much for your generous donation. That means a lot to us in helping us maintain our ability to keep the lights on and keep all of these various pieces of equipment that I'm surrounded by, keeping those going. So thank you so much for prayerfully considering that donation. If you want to follow Jackie's lead, please give us a call at 785-621-4110, or you can go to dvmercy.com and make your donation there. While you're there, please continue to follow us on that little thermometer that we have on the front page of the website. Just watch us over the next, now it's like 15 minutes and then all day tomorrow, and how that thermometer grows. We are so grateful for all of the donations that we have received, both in, pre-Carathon donations, as well as those that have come in over the last 3 days. But we still have a good ways to go to reach that goal of $125,000. I would ask that you prayerfully consider, making a donation and challenging your friends or your family, or if you're a Knights of Columbus organization, if you're a council there, challenge another Knights of Columbus council to step up and make the donation to support Divine Mercy Radio, and allow us to share the gospel message across these airwaves that, cover, hundreds and hundreds of miles, especially as you look at that I-70 corridor. We are so grateful for all of those who have stepped up to make that pledge to say, yes, I'm going to put my money where my faith is, and I'm going to support this mission of Divine Mercy Radio. So we appreciate any amount, any donation, whether it's, a couple of dollars a month, or if it's $1,000 a month. We would be more than happy to make the best use of that money. So if we have, we still have some time left available today, so give us a call in the next 10 or 15 minutes, and let's take care of the rest of those matching funds. Again, give us a call at 785-621-4110, or donate online at dvmercy.com. Okay, so Mary, we have just a little bit of time left. We have about 5 minutes left. Is there anything about motherhood that we didn't cover, things that you kind of wanted to share with us, thoughts that were on your heart, or anything that you've felt pertinent for today's conversation? I know you always come in so prepared, and then I just go off script.
No, actually, your off script has saved my life lately. I've it's been so hard to prepare for this. We've been sick like forever, it feels like, and it's hard to like think when your brain isn't working right.
Oh, yeah.
So I actually have no great further insights. Ask me more questions,
sure.
Allison.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. So I asked you, what would you tell yourself in those first, maybe a year of being a mom? For those moms who are just entering like the preteen phase, which I know is a huge, and especially when you look at all the distractions, all the technology, all the things that our kids are being called to do or giving the opportunity to do, what kinds of advice would you give that mom who may feel like, I'm losing the fight here, I don't know what to do? What would you tell her?
Don't give up.
Solid advice. Yes.
Keep fighting the good fight.
Yes.
I don't know. Recently, my husband stepped up for us and said that we were only going to have video games on the weekends, actually only on Sundays.
Oh, nice.
And that has been kind of very good for our family.
Yeah.
So it was a shift. We used to be, you had to finish your homework and then you could have some time in the evening. And now it's been, no, we're not going to do that. And that has re-geared our family focus back toward other things. It's given them some space to do other things, which is just vital. I think that might be what I would say to a preteen or whatever. Find out what your kids like to do and do it with them, because honestly, it's all about relationship, and it's about having that relationship, and you should be growing it all along. And even if you haven't, it's okay, but start now. you know,
Yeah.
find something to do with them, find your time. I know my dad used to always go for drives with my brother. Like that was how they would talk. So, well, let's go for a drive. You know, he didn't drive with me as much. I don't know.
She is an excellent driver, I promise.
I wasn't out of driver's ed though, but we won't talk about that. But no, like finding some way to connect with them. This is fun too because I was just giving my daughter some suggestions for Lily for her confirmation sponsor. I was like, go spend some time with her, take her out for ice cream, you know, take her do the fun girl things. I'm good with girls, but you know, especially I take my daughters to the thrift shop. I know that's silly, but they love it because you can find so much good stuff and you can spend the whole day there just like laughing at the things or trying on the things or buying all the things. Girls are so easy. Boys are harder, but they do like food and ice cream. And, you know, if you want to go take them to wherever, like take them to the library and listen to it tell you about your favorite book. I've learned to accept some of them, you know, and like, or talk about Minecraft for a while or gosh, yeah, I've heard so much about Minecraft lately. I'm like, okay, but their houses, their creations are fantastic. I'm just like, wow, like look at the creativity of this. But yeah, so in a nutshell, just find something that your children and relate to them, not on social media. Although if you want to do that, if that's part of your thing, like I text my kids too, is what I'm trying to say. But we try to keep the phones. We only have phones because we drive 40 minutes. You know, we don't otherwise. When you're home in the house, I'm not expecting you on your phone. You know what I mean? I'm expecting you doing other things.
Well, in terms of, you mentioned, you know, spending time with them on the faith side of that, what have you done to instill that faith life, that prayer life, and encourage that in your kids?
Well, something we did this year during Lent, was it this year or last year? I don't remember, but our church started doing adoration on Wednesdays just for an hour. And so I was like, we're doing it. I don't care your excuse. We're doing it. So we would drive in and do an hour of adoration as a family. And at first they were kind of like, oh, but one time we left and my son that went to high school was like, Mom, I needed that. I was like, oh, bless your heart. That's really the secret. I mean, as a mother, you know, I keep saying we're going to comfort and we're going to do all these things, but it's really just bringing Jesus to them and letting them experience Jesus because he's our healer. He's our consoler. He's the one that does the things. We just need them to settle down to reach him, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Mary, we are getting ready to wrap things up here. And so I know that the guys will be making their way in, but thank you so much. Everybody, we are so appreciative of Mary bringing, you know, taking time away from your family and, coming in here to talk about how we move closer to God through our motherhood. So thank you again for your insight and for your joy and for raising just a beautiful family.
And thank you, Allison. It's a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are nearing the end of our third day of the Divine Mercy Radio Carathon. Again, our spring carathon theme is Behold, I Make All Things New. And we have a lot of new elements, you know, that we've talked about over the course of the last 3 days. In terms of, you know, opportunities and faith life and pilgrimage sites that many of us don't know anything about or haven't to this point. We also are very excited to be able to move into a new building in the very short term for Divine Mercy Radio. But we can't do that without your help. And so please prayerfully consider making a donation to help us reach that $125,000 goal. Again, you can give us a call even after 4 o'clock. You know, we'll still be here. You can give us a call tomorrow. Cody Marinser will be on the air tomorrow from 7 o'clock until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 7 a.m. to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And, you know, he will be joined by several new guests, people that we haven't talked to before, several people that we have. So just to give you a preview of what that day looks like, Representative Barb Wassinger, we will have an interview with her on the air at 7 a.m. We will also hear from Carl Hines, from George Toman, from Father Adam Urban, from our very own Michael Lager, from Chloe Prout, Father Fred Gatchett, and then Mark Gatchett and Father Fred Gatchett, who will be discussing faith and faithscience.org. And will they be on the air with Father Spitzer? No, talking about him. Very good. Okay. So I've got Michael and Nathan in the studio with me, but please do give us, you know, a listen tomorrow. You can tune in via the radio. You can tune in via our Divine Mercy Radio app on your phone. You can watch us live on YouTube on, is it Rumble. You know, we've got a number of avenues to watch us and to listen in to our carathon. But I am going to turn it over to these guys because they have an update of where we stand. They also are going to let us make the do the drawing for the $50 gift certificate. But before we get there, I do want to thank Joan and Larry Drees of Ellenwood for their donation of $100 toward our goal. So thank you so much, Joan and Larry. We also had Roger and Jolene Schuster from Grainfield who called in with a $500 donation. So Roger and Jolene, thank you so much for that very generous gift. We appreciate all of your support and all of your, I know for a lot of you, these are sacrificial gifts, and we cannot thank you enough for making that sacrifice to help us further our mission. So I will let one of you, I'm not sure who wants to take the lead on this.
Sweet. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll just go ahead and do the fun part that everybody's probably tuning in for. And that is for the drawing for the gift card to Traditional Catholic Books Messenger here in Hayes. So Nathan has it nice and high. It actually might be too tall for me to reach for once. Oh, never mind. I was wrong. My own height astounded me. All righty. And I think this is well deserved because she really tried hard to call in this whole entire week. But Lorraine Brungart is the trivia winner.
Congratulations, Lorraine. That's awesome.
She had to talk to me a few times, and I always feel bad because I'm phone number 2. And so if you get to me, typically it's not good news for your trivia chances.
No, that's okay. Well, congratulations. We are so happy for you, and we will get you that $50 gift certificate. Again, that is a $50 gift certificate to Messenger Traditional Catholic Books and Gifts in Hayes, and you can find Messenger at traditionalcatholicstore.com, or you can find them in downtown Hayes. The last couple of things that I want to mention is another amazing donation. We have Doug and Melissa Johnson who donated $300 toward our goal. So Doug and Melissa, thank you so much again for your generosity in supporting Divine Mercy Radio. We want to again remind everyone that we will be on the air for one more day tomorrow from 7 a.m. until 4 p.m. Cody Morencer will be your host. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to spend this time with you. And thank you again. I mentioned all of our board members, and we have Nathan and Michael on staff here at the radio station. We also have an army of volunteers behind us that allow us to maintain our staffing, fully staffed here at the station during these carathons. We could not have done it without you, but we definitely work together as a team. As many of you've seen a few different hosts over the course of these last 3 days, but you'll be in very good hands with Cody tomorrow. We're very excited about the opportunity to bring you another slate of amazing guests. And so thank you so much again for all of your commitment to Divine Mercy Radio. For those of you who have stepped up to the plate, made those pledges, made those donations, we are truly appreciative of those donations, and we will do our absolute best to keep your money funding all of the things that keep us on the air, whether it's the technology, whether it's the daily bills, or just the programming that we subscribe to, and in order to spread the gospel message. So again, we want to thank you. I don't know if the guys have anything else they want to add for the day. I think the thermometer is in the process of being updated. Anything else you want to say before we do our top of the hour station identification?
No, we're going to keep going, and we got one more day, so make sure to tune in and spread the word. I know sometimes it's a very busy time of year, so there's sometimes people don't know what's happening, so just spread the word and make sure that people tune in for another great day.
Excellent. So we will go ahead and do the top of the hour station identification before we move back over to our regular programming. You are listening to Divine Mercy Radio, 101.7 KJDM Lindsborg, Salina, 105.7 KMDG Hayes, 88.1 KRTT in Great Bend, 88.1 KVDM in Hayes, 89.1 KGOH Colby, and 107.3 K297 AI Hills.